Game Jolt, home of the most beloved Fnaf Fangames. It has the classics like Five Nights at Candy's, and newer fangames like Glitch Attraction. But hiding in the shadows of the Game Jolt Fnaf page are some unique Fnaf Fangames, to say the least. That doesn't mean that they're bad, just that they're different from other Fnaf Fangames. Just because I think these fangames are weird does not mean that they are bad. It just means that, well, they're unique, especially compared to Fnaf Fangames that have the same gameplay as the mainline Sit and Survive Fnaf games. Keep in mind that this video is just my opinion and you are free to disagree with me. This video will go over some weird Fnaf Fangames I found on Game Jolt. I will also judge if they're good and worth playing. If any of these fangames interest you, I will have a link for each game I will go over in the description of the video. With that out of the way, let's begin. First up, we have Freddy Spy. I'll just call it Freddy Spy. This game is basically Where's Waldo but for different FNAF locations. Your objective is to find a list of objects, but if time runs out or you click on something that is not on the list, you get jump scared. What makes finding these items difficult is the sheer amount of things on each level, and the lighting can make telling which color an object is difficult. Therefore, you have to take chances sometimes. Especially with the cups. Sometimes it is really difficult to tell what their color is because of the lighting. The objects are also often hidden behind other objects, or in hard to see areas, or straight up in the darkness, so they are incredibly difficult to see. The game looks good. I really like the different levels because each one is themed after a FNAF game or an area in a FNAF game. This is a really unique FNAF fangame. If you're looking for a FNAF fangame where you don't have to survive and defend from the animatronics, you should give this a chance. The game can be quite challenging, but it is really rewarding when you complete a level. The game is quite short, and I have seen 0 people talking about this game. I think it deserves more attention because of its interesting concept. I mean, people like the glitched attraction because it has a unique idea. That being FNAF themed escape rooms, where you have to survive and complete puzzles. So I feel like Freddy Spy should get some recognition for being a short, unique take on FNAF, where you have to find different objects in clustered FNAF locations. My favorite part was beating a level because I couldn't wait to see what the next one would look like. All of the levels look good and the items in them are difficult to find. If a FNAF themed Where's Waldo game interests you, definitely give Freddy Spy a try. The next fangame on the list is Baby's Nightmare Circus. Bike Fighter. This game is, well, a spin-off, I assume, to the popular fan game Baby's Nightmare Circus. In the game, you ride on a bike and shoot at enemies. It has a FNAF world-like art style and the soundtrack is actually really good. This game has a bunch of different levels. The game also gives you some cool collectibles for beating the different levels, just like in the first Baby's Nightmare Circus. The game is actually challenging because aiming can be a bit difficult. It moves quite a bit if you quickly tap the key to aim up or down, which makes aiming at small enemies very difficult. Even though the aiming is a bit wonky, you can get used to it and it adds a lot of challenge to the game, which I like. The game reminds me of Chica's Magic Rainbow from FNAF World, because it too was designed to be an overly difficult game. Also, both of these games share a similar art style. If this sort of game sounds fun to you, definitely check it out. It's really fun and it has some cool boss fights. It's much different from the traditional sit and survive format of the mainline FNAF games, and most FNAF fan games. It's something unique and I like that. Just be aware that it is pretty challenging, especially at first when you aren't used to aiming. Just like Freddy Spy, the game isn't that long, so I suggest at least giving it a try. Next up we have Fazbear Armageddon, a FNAF first-person shooter. You go around killing stuff like endoskeletons and giant golden Freddy heads. The game is pretty short, but it's very fun. The game's graphics remind me of the PS1 era, because of the pixelated textures and the low poly models, but I don't think it looks ugly. Quite the opposite. This game honestly looks amazing. It absolutely nails the old style it's looking for. In the game, you walk around and have to shoot different enemies. And trust me, it's a lot more fun than it sounds. There are some cool bosses too. The game has a ton of difficulty levels, so you can tweak the difficulty if the game is too easy or too hard. The game, like the other two we covered in this video, is very short. That's because it was made for the Reddit Game Jam. So basically the creator had a very short amount of time to make the game. But oh boy, did they make a good one. I really wish the creator made an expanded version that adds new levels, new enemies, new weapons, everything. The concept of a FNAF first-person shooter is pretty unique, and the execution is very good. If this game interests you, definitely give it a try. I just wish it was expanded on and made into a bigger game. The art style looks really nice and does a great job at mimicking old first-person shooter games. This game is inspired by Ultra Kill, a first-person shooter that also has a similar art style and similar gameplay. If there was an expanded version or sequel to Fazbear Armageddon, I would like to see more FNAF enemies with unique attacks. Like, what if the game had the phantom animatronics, and they would quickly shoot at you, disappear, appear somewhere else, and shoot at you again, and then disappear, and well, repeat that. I think that would be really cool. There are a lot of cool ideas for FNAF enemies that could be in the game. It is a very unique take on the FNAF universe. I just think that it should be expanded upon or maybe get a sequel. Even though the game is short, I still highly recommend you to play it because it is really good. If this sort of game interests you, definitely give this one a try because it is actually really good. And I think it deserves more love from the community. I doubt that this game will get a sequel, but I really hope it does. Overall, this game is very fun. It's a first-person shooter where you fight FNAF characters, and the final boss of the game is really cool. I won't spoil it. Why? Well, the boss is really cool and has a very interesting mechanic. If you're looking for some underrated FNAF Fangames to play, especially non-horror ones, definitely give this game a try. Now, let's move on to the next game. And, well, the final one. That being Scott in Space. At first, this game seems like Flappy Bird, but with FNAF characters and Scott. However, when you get to the end, you fly into Nightmare Balloon Boy's mouth and then he eats you. The game is over. You should check it out. Okay, let's move on. The next game we will take a look at is Nightmare BB Eats You. So, you decide to play again. This time experimenting by clicking on the various objects drifting in space. You come across exotic butters, click it and yup, there's more to this game than it seems. So really, the game is a minigame collection. It's pretty short. I'll go over the minigames first and talk about the game as a whole later. First up, we have the Exotic Butters minigame. This one is titled Exotic Location. In the game, you have to collect 100 exotic butters. But wait, there are cupcakes falling down, and if you get them in your basket that is only meant to store exotic butters exclusively, you die. If that wasn't bad enough, there are 2 more enemies that show up and block your view and, well, scream, therefore making catching butters and avoiding cupcakes much more difficult. But you just press S or F. It depends on which one shows up. Yes, you can spam S and F, so they disappear immediately, therefore making them just pop-ups that appear for a couple of milliseconds, making the game much easier. When you beat this minigame, you get a cutscene and a trophy. When you play again, you'll notice a weird Bonnie head. When you click it, you get taken to the second minigame. This minigame is clearly inspired by the Foxy.exe minigame from FNAF World. You walk to the right, but watch out! Sometimes Bonnie will check to see if you're there. You need to make sure to be crouching down and not moving, or else he will see you and hear you. This minigame is it's pretty boring. All you do is walk right, crouch, wait for Bonnie, Bonnie shows up, Bonnie disappears, start walking again after Bonnie disappears. It's pretty repetitive, but it's over pretty quickly, so oh well. After the minigame, when you try playing again, you will notice a spinning pizza. If you click on it, you will be able to play the final minigame. In the minigame, you have to collect pizzas around a very familiar maze. You need to try to avoid the animatronics or else they will kill you. This is obviously a FNAF version of PacMan. However, the controls are weird. Watch out for the walls because they will slow you down a ton. The AI also seem kinda wonky. They are definitely not as smart as PacMan AI. They don't seem like they're actually chasing you most of the time. They just seem like they are going around randomly, and if you hit them, it's game over. I know I just shared a lot of criticism I have about this game, but that doesn't mean it's bad. The minigame is still good. It's fun because of how many enemies there are on the map. It feels like you're constantly trying to dodge one. When you collect all the pizzas, you win, and you beat the game. Well, now let's actually judge if the game is good. If I'm gonna be honest, this game is fine. If a collection of FNAF minigames interests you, then definitely check this game out, because it's not bad at all. I just feel like the game could have gotten more polished in certain areas, the PacMan stage especially, but the game is fine. It's pretty fun, to be honest. It's pretty short, but it's a really unique Fnaf fan game. This game is really unique, just like the other games we went over in this video. I mean, we are covering the weirdest Fnaf fan games after all. If you're looking to play a few short Fnaf minigames, then I recommend this game. Well, we got to look at some unique and weird Fnaf fan games. Keep in mind that just because I consider these games weird, does not mean that they are bad. I recommend at least trying all of these games. Why? Well, because they're good. If any of these games interest you, there is a link for each game I talked about in the description. Well, this video is out a lot later than I wanted it to be. Oh well, I'll try to get the next video out way sooner than it took this video to come out. Like, comment, and maybe even subscribe if you enjoyed the video. This was GameSpeaking, and goodbye.